Alrighty, we are back. Your favorite podcast show of the week. It is Location Weekly. It's episode number 535, and we are recording live on September the 21st. Yes, it's almost fall. We're kind of, the weather's changing up here, at least in Toronto, getting a little bit cooler. It's still like 21, 22 Celsius here, so not too bad. But it's definitely, you can see the leaves starting to turn. How's things for you, Abriana?
Yeah, I would say the same's happening like in the mornings and in the evenings. It's that nice, crisp, little bit of, coolness that's just you like want to sit outside and have your coffee in the morning. It's wonderful. But during the day, it's definitely still getting warm,
Yeah.
which is okay. I know it's going to be a tough winter for me coming from Atlanta. So I'm okay kind of easing into the cold weather, but I do love fall. So I'm excited for that. And up here, I know it's going to be beautiful, but yeah, like things are busy, things are good. Settling in, planning a 4-year-old birthday party, never a dull day, Staying busy with work, that thing that keeps us going as well. So yeah. How about you? What's
Yeah,
new?
yeah, same. Like just, work is crazy busy right now. Kids are, fully into school and yeah, just hanging on, for, all, last little bits here of this playoff race with my Blue Jays, we'll see. I don't know. It's a struggle. It's like they win one, they lose one, but they're still currently holding the last wild card. We'll see.
Yeah, it sounds
Uh,
exhausting.
yeah. Anyhow, all right, we have a good show for you. Four stories as usual. An interesting array of brands and companies we're talking about this week. I'll let Ariana start us off.
All right. This is cool. We've seen so many virtual and digital experiences that have, it was a trend and kind of happening before the pandemic, and obviously the pandemic and people staying home and doing things remotely has just expanded on this area so much. And Amazon has continued to kind of amplify their Explore offering. So if you're an Amazon customer, check this out, or just search Amazon Explore. And now you can book these small live group experiences. You can do that with up to 7 people. So it's an expansion of this initiative that they had launched about a year ago during the pandemic. And there's all of these different one-on-one experiences or group experiences around the world that you can do virtually, which is really cool. So you can discover these destinations alongside of other people who maybe have similar interests as you, or you can do a more one-on-one and have like this curated experience slightly where you're having everything, the ability to shop on the way in like a local village, for example. You kind of get to like see, taste, and shop around the world with these tour guides. You can actually even sign up to be a tour guide, if you have something really interesting in your area that you know a lot about and you're an expert. Definitely check that out. But some of the options that they have that they shared were like having an empanada lesson from Buenos Aires and maybe a Mexican coffee lesson, not like from this family roaster, showing how they do that. Virtual cocktail classes from different areas, all these different very cool experiences that you can have. And these sessions last between half an hour and an hour, and you can actually take photos through your Amazon account that you can save as if you were really, really there. This kind of reminded me of the Airbnb experiences, right? Like you book your Airbnb to stay, and then you find a local tour guide, and you have this experience while you're there. Except obviously virtual. And I think this is really fun. It made me think, oh, this is a great gift idea. Like, what do you get for your parents, when they have everything that they need and they don't need any more gadgets or whatnot? And this I was like, oh, good. They even have gift cards there. So you could do, a family experience where you could all get on your computers and experience something together, which would be really cool. And we're seeing more of this happen even as like the fun holidays come in, right? You've got like the Halloween haunted houses, Black Friday, Santa Claus, all of those different things that are on their way. some people are okay with doing some things in, physical in, in person, but other people want to have that space, or, just for the convenience factor, just being able to jump onto your computer rather than jumping in your car and going somewhere. So those like trips, concerts, all those things. And they're starting at $14 for the group experiences, which is a pretty great deal. I think it sounds fun. I really like the idea of seeing like the coffee roasters, or like a lesson on, making something from another area of the world. I think that's super cool. When it comes to, maybe like a haunted house, probably not as much as exciting for me personally, but I think this is fun. Like I like the idea of having a really quick trip, that you can take on a monthly basis without even having to buy a plane ticket around the world. So I love the experiential factor. I think that the price point is great. Yeah, and I think this is going to continue to grow. They've got, let's see, 450 immersive experiences, 7 categories, and 21 different spots around the world. So, what do you think?
I like it. I think it's great. I think the price point is amazing. I think that the timing, around doing this as we go into holiday seasons of Thanksgiving and Christmas and gift giving and whatnot. I think it's a reasonable thing. And as you say, like there's a lot of people, at least in my world, like parents that you mentioned that what do they need? Like they don't need more clothes. They don't need more, whatever, like something that's different, something that's unique, like, learn how to make something or learn how to do something or whatever, or experience a place, especially in COVID times, right? When it's not so easy to travel, right? Kind of bringing that experience, bringing that travel to where you are. I love it. I think it's, sort of this virtual location based, experiential type stuff. And I quite like it. And that you can take photos and save those and post and, all of that kind of stuff that we talk about a lot about, amplifying and creating content and sharing that content. I think it's really cool. As you were talking, I was thinking about this past weekend. I was reading an article in the newspaper about this young couple here in Toronto. I think they're newly married, and they've kind of gone on this mission to basically experience food from every country in the world in the city. So Toronto's like an extremely multicultural city, and there's a lot of diversity in people and food here. And so they've identified 130 something restaurants that are authentic to whatever cuisine from Ethiopia or Poland or wherever. And so they're on this mission to go and eat basically in their own city here in Toronto food from every part of the world. And share those experiences and blog and post and whatnot about that. And I think about like, okay, well, maybe like even something like that plays into a platform like this, right? Where maybe I can't go necessarily and eat that food, but like even just seeing that food being prepared and the experience and what it looks like on the plate in front of me and whatever, I think even that is interesting, right, for some people. So I don't know. I like the idea of this. I think they're onto something here. So I'm sort of surprised like that, Expedia or Groupon or somebody like that isn't sort of offering something like this at this scale. So anyhow,
Kind of missed the boat on that one. It seems like a great opportunity to be able to do that, right? But yeah, maybe they're stuck in like the Kodak moment.
there you go. All right, on to our second story. So today we're going to talk about Pepsi. And no, we're not talking about the drinks themselves or the beverages or the, anything that they sell per se. What we're talking about is data. And they've launched a new data service called PepViz. And it's a data insights framework that is, for retailers that are looking to do some data sharing with partners to help optimize store performance or product performance on shelves and so on. And, obviously Pepsi and any company like this, they have a lot of data. They have a lot of POS data. They have a lot of location data. They have a lot of, just data period, right? And I think they've basically said, hey, we want to sort of start to open up this data and find ways to help our retail partners, that ultimately are the ones driving our product into consumer hands, um, understand how to optimize, the performance of their own stores, right? So they gave this one example. They said where, by looking, so they said that one merchant was looking to understand how to grow their salty category in both the number and size of stores. And they were able to examine a lookalike environment across the store profile from Pepsi, and then identified within the Pepsi product suite what they call their better for you products, and realized that that would resonate well based on these lookalikes with these environments, and we're able to see an incremental lift in sales based on just analyzing the data and the performance and the locations and all that kind of stuff. So, I think there's something here, and I remember you and I were just talking before the show about a mutual friend in Tom Daly, who used to be the head of digital at Coca-Cola a long time ago, in the early days of the LBMA, and in fact helped us launch the LBMA with you in Atlanta way back when. And I remember a conversation I had with Tom. In fact, we were in his car. He was giving me a ride somewhere, and he was like, we've got so much data we're sitting on here at Coca-Cola, like in terms of location data, in terms of the stores that sell our product, the restaurants that distribute our product, the vending machines that are all over the world that are selling our product, etc. How can we kind of unlock this data to make it something that's useful to others and within our partner ecosystem and so on. And here we are, Pepsi's talking about doing just that right now. And that's like what 10 years later from when I had that conversation, probably, right, with Tom at Coke. So so I think this is interesting, and I think there's a lot of value in retailers and CPG companies sort of unlocking their data and making it sort of available to partners to sort of ultimately understand how to drive more sales or optimize sales, or understand even which products to be developing for certain markets and geographies. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, out the gate, it's an interesting thing that makes you step back and be like, why is Pepsi getting into the data company, data business, right? But the reality is right now, and traditionally for a long time, CPG companies have a really hard time with data, with advertising for performance, because it's really difficult to measure. It's very, very difficult. You can measure footfall, you can, work through, the Ibotta's of the world and things of that nature, but it's very, very complicated to have all that data pass through from a point of sale perspective back to Pepsi, beyond what they're seeing from their orders and what's coming in. So tying performance to specific marketing and advertising budget and campaigns has been traditionally very difficult. And I think that in conjunction and coupled with the technology changes around privacy, legislation, data sharing, third-party cookies, all of those things that are happening right now in this ecosystem is what is pushing for this. So it's almost like a co-op, and the ability to understand what is driving performance, what is driving sales, best practices, all of those things, and having that where you have the relationship that's not reliant on other vendors and other third parties, I think is a very powerful thing. And so I think it makes a ton of sense. And I expect that more and more brands, specifically CPG brands, are going to be saying like, hey, I want in on this too. Like, we have to figure out how to continue to leverage our first party data and understand more of what's happening in the retailer that's selling our SKUs, right? So I think this is super smart. It's needed, and my early prediction, which I'll probably reiterate at the end of the not the end of the year, beginning of next year, will be that we're going to see a lot more of this starting to scale up.
Yeah, that's bang on. 100% agree. So cool. All right, next story.
All right, so there's a company called VisionEct, and this is an interesting company. They have this e-paper. It's an e-paper company. So kind of think of, like those readers that you might have, like a Kindle, for example, where you have that e-reading type of a screen. And they are now adding this location element into their Joan offering. So they're based in Slovenia, and what they have is this meeting room e-paper solution, or Joan, and it's a scheduling system that has all these different features like booking automation, safety measure integrations or help questionnaires, tracking employee presence, wayfinding, all those different things. So, think of these little screens being outside of all the meeting rooms and different areas in an office, larger campuses being able to find things, book conference rooms, all of that. Well, now they've added this new feature, which is really cool. They've added something called smart magnets. And so these will attach to any of the services that have the Joan 6 Pro. And so now these e-paper screens can be relocated, and they just seamlessly reconfigure wherever they are. So, you take one screen off of this meeting room and you take it to another meeting room. And when it attaches to that magnet outside of the new meeting room, it's automatically reconfigured with the information for that meeting room. There's no additional setup time or costs. It's just automatically doing that through these smart magnets based on the location. So I think this is really cool. These devices can be tracked. They can also, have this, they have a 6-month battery life. So when you think about why not, use just a standard tablet or an iPad or something like that. And the reason why is the battery drain. You don't need all those features and functionality for something like this. You need some standard things. So there's a lot of reasons that these are better options. I'm assuming they're also a much better price point. So I think this is, it's not wow, this is a mind-blowing thing. But what I love is that, sometimes we have these extremes, when new technology comes out, right? So you think about when GPS first started, it was either a disc that was in the manufacturer's car, then you had the actual Garmin device. And then now it's just everybody just uses their phone because it's automatically updated. You've got the crowdsourcing, of all that information coming in, and people have realized I don't need a separate device for this thing. I have it already baked in. And the same thing with this type of technology, right? We had these really robust tablets that have all this connectivity, that have the capacity to work like computers, right? And we don't need all of that functionality for something like this. And then you add in the ease of use and just the location interoperability, I think is really powerful for large campuses or schools, or anything that you want to kind of meet and track. And then you think about the Canatrace aspect, right? So the meeting questionnaires on health screening before you enter a room, and just having everything baked into that one e-paper option, I think is really cool. Not I'm so excited about this, it's meeting room technology, but I think that it is practical and applicable to a lot of these larger campuses that have the need to have key functionality. So
yeah, sometimes simple is the coolest, right? And that's what I love about this, is that you can just move these around. They can reconfigure on the fly based on the location. As you were talking, the one kind of use case that popped into my mind, I was thinking hospitals. I was thinking people are moved from one room to another room, equipment's moved from one room to another room, and even just you're going to visit somebody that's in the hospital, right? What room are they in? And the name outside the door and all that kind of stuff. I think there's a ton of potential in that type of environment, right? Within healthcare. So that to me is super interesting. So I totally get the office use case, meeting room experience, but I think there's a big market here potentially within the healthcare and specifically the hospital setting.
Yeah, healthcare, education, anything. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, all right, very cool. Visionect out of Slovenia. Love it. All right, final story, kind of coming into COVID world here. COVID's not gone, right? It's still, we're seeing a lot of flare-ups in different parts of the world, and specifically even countries like Australia that seem to have it all under control, have seen a recent resurgence. And so the Australian New South Wales government is doing a pilot right now, using geolocation and facial recognition technology for quarantine. So if you sort of come into the country and you're required to do a 7-day home-based quarantine, they have a pilot running right now with 175 people. And so there's this app that they've built, and it uses geolocation and facial recognition technology to monitor whether that person is following and complying with the state's quarantine rules. So basically, through the app, it also provides a testing schedule and a symptom checker for contact tracing purposes and things like that. But basically, it's checking your location, and it's checking where you are, and using facial recognition to make sure that you're the right actual person, and all that kind of stuff. You're not trying to get around the system. And so I think this is interesting, right? I mean, obviously we've seen this type of thing in China and different markets like that. But in sort of the G7 sort of democratic world of companies or countries like Australia and the U.S. and Canada and Britain and so on, we typically don't see this kind of implementation of technology that people would generally say is quite invasive, right? And yet, I think Australia has been at the forefront of trying to control sort of the case counts around COVID. I mean, they had one of the lowest case counts for the longest time. They still have one of the lowest case counts anywhere in the world. Like they very much have been like, hey, if there's 10 new cases, we're in lockdown, right? I mean, like that's kind of the approach that they've taken, right? And so I'm not all that surprised that they're trying to test and experiment with new technologies, but I am a little bit interested, I guess would be the best word to say. I'm going to be looking to see how this study goes and what the reaction is from both the 175 people who are using it as well as the general population. I'm interested to learn kind of what the response is around this. So yeah, and I think like just speaking from personal experience here in Canada, like we've had, until recently, we've had if you were coming from out of country, this is all relaxed now, but there was a 14-day quarantine here. At one point, you had to actually quarantine within a government hotel near the airport for a period of time until you got 2 negative tests, and then you were released to kind of go and finish your quarantine at home. That's not the case here at the moment, but I think it's interesting because people, were obviously trying to get around those rules. People were, trying to, say they were quarantining at home when they actually were, just back at work or in the office or wherever. And so I think it's quite interesting to see that they're using location tech and they're using facial recognition to sort of verify that people are actually doing what they say they're doing and following the rules. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, where I'm going to go. You already started to go there. Was like, this is similar to China. And we talk about the cloud scores and pulling all of that data. And yeah, to me, this is a no. I think that if we are concerned about, big tech companies having facial recognition and using that, then we should be equally concerned about government having those capabilities. I understand that this is for something that is good. There are other options. We have talked about the tracing that is done. That's all anonymous tracing and all of that. And I opt in to do that. That's fine. I'm okay with that, but when it comes to facial recognition and like following somebody, I think that's, for me, that's like a hard no. And I feel like that's also a slippery slope. Like you open the door for one thing that's health related, and then everything else is health related, but then it's really just controlling. So, I'm all for like keeping people safe, doing my part. But yeah, to me, this is like just a step like far, far, far in the wrong direction. So yeah, you knew where I was going with that.
I knew where you're going, and I don't disagree. Like I think, there's a fine line there, right, between public health and safety, and everybody doing the right thing, and sort of going over that line to now we're monitoring and tracking, and I think you could make the argument like they are, or at least testing to see how this works with something like COVID, and we're trying to control cases, but the risk is there, right? Once you open that door, as you said, right? Like that, what else is this going to be used for? Illegal immigration, all sorts of other things that come to mind, right? So,
Speeding, jaywalking,
yeah. So,
everything, name it, it's there.
yeah. So it's interesting, and yeah, I will be, searching and inquiring as to the outcomes of this pilot. So maybe I'll have something to share about that in another month or so. So let's see where it goes.
Yep. Sure.
So that's it. That's our show for this week. You've been listening and watching episode number 535 of Location Weekly. We thank you, as always, for your time. And yeah, if you have story ideas, reach out. Send us a note. Send us some feedback. Give us some likes on whatever platform you're consuming this on. And we just thank you for your time. We'll be back next week with another show and another set of great stories from our industry. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.
Bye.